Hey, welcome. So we're all taught to think that rising prices, inflation, are the big bad guy. But have you ever stopped to wonder what would happen if the opposite were true? What if everything just got cheaper? Let's get into it, because it turns out falling prices might be way more dangerous than you think.
No, seriously, just picture it for a minute. Your groceries, your rent, that phone you've been wanting. Imagine if the price tag on all of it started dropping. I mean, that sounds pretty great, right? Like a dream come true.
And at first glance, it absolutely is. What's happening is that your purchasing power is going up. Every single dollar you have can suddenly go further. It's basically like getting a pay raise, but without your boss having to do a thing.
To put it another way, that same $3 in your pocket suddenly has more muscle. Yesterday, it bought you a burger. Today, it gets you the whole meal. That's the simple and, let's be honest, very appealing side of falling prices.
Okay, so this whole idea of prices falling actually has a name. Let's talk about what economists call this phenomena.
It's called deflation. And really, it's just the exact opposite of inflation. Instead of your money slowly losing its value over time, with deflation, it's actually gaining value. Pretty wild, huh?
Now here's a really important point. Don't get deflation mixed up with disinflation. They sound similar, but they're totally different. Disinflation just means prices are still going up, but at a slower pace. Inflation goes from 2% down to 1%. But with deflation, prices aren't just rising slowly, they are actually falling. We're talking negative inflation.
So, we've covered the good part. Cheaper stuff is awesome. Your money is more powerful. What's not to love? Well, this is where the story takes a really dark turn, and we get into the hidden danger that keeps economists up at night.
And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? If my money buys more, how on earth could that be a bad thing? Well, the problem isn't that first price drop. The problem is the scary domino-like chain reaction that it can unleash.
So, what kicks this whole thing off? Well, it usually starts with some kind of major shock to the system. Maybe there's a financial crisis, and suddenly there's just less money flowing around. Or maybe people get scared and start saving every penny instead of spending. It could even be that companies just made way too much stuff, and now there aren't enough buyers.
And this really hits at the heart of the problem. You end up in a world full of amazing bargains, but nobody can actually afford to buy them.
And that leads to something called the deflationary spiral. This isn't just a theory, it's exactly what happened during the Great Depression. Think about it. If you know that TV is going to be cheaper next week, you'll wait to buy it, right? When everyone does that, businesses can't sell anything. So what do? They cut wages and lay people off. And now, those people have even less money to spend, which pushes prices down even more. You see the cycle? It's this vicious downward spiral that can completely paralyze an economy. Okay, so if an economy gets caught in that terrifying spiral, how in the world do you get it out? The good news is governments and central banks have a whole toolkit ready to fight back.
The main idea is pretty simple, actually. You have to get money moving again. It's like giving a jump start to a car with a dead battery. The goal is to break that cycle of falling prices by encouraging people and businesses to start spending and investing again.
So the central bank usually acts as the first responder. They'll do things like slash interest rates to make it super cheap to borrow money. They'll also buy up government bonds, which is a way of pumping cash directly into the financial system. And in really serious situations, they can fire up the big guns, something called quantitative easing, which is basically a fancy term for creating new money out of thin air to get the economy going.
But it's not just the central bank. The government can jump in too, using what's called fiscal policy. They can cut your taxes, which leaves more money in your pocket to hopefully spend, or they can start spending a lot of money on big projects, building new roads, bridges, and things like that, which creates jobs and puts money directly into the hands of workers.
All right, that's the big picture economics of it. But let's bring it back down to earth. What does this all mean for you and your wallet? How can you protect yourself if this ever starts to happen?
Yeah, let's get practical. If you start hearing the word deflation in the news, there are some real, concrete things you can do to make sure your personal finances are shielded from the storm.
First off, in a deflationary world, debt is your number one enemy. That's because the real value of what you owe is actually going up. So paying down loans is a really smart move. On the other hand, cash is king. Since prices are falling, the cash you hold is becoming more valuable every single day. And if you're an investor, you'd probably want to shift towards safer things like really high-quality government bonds or stocks in rock-solid companies that have tons of cash and not a lot of debt.
Which brings us right back to where we started. We spend so much time worrying about the price of everything going up, but maybe, just maybe,
An economy where prices are always falling is an even scarier thought. It's a great reminder that when it comes to the economy, it's not about high or low prices. It's all about stability.